Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to the eastern wing of the Stink Bug Works. Today I'm going to talk about my plans. Where they started, when they started, where they're going, and when they're going to get there. So, back in the beginning, I think I talked to Lisa in May and ordered a motor for this thing back in May. Now, my plan for this is similar to the plan for the Wonder Woman. I'm going to take a really small motor with a KV that's way too high, and I'm going to put it in the boat and drop the KV with a gearbox. So a little tiny motor with a high KV running through a gear drive will spin the same prop as a bigger motor with a lower KV. So in a way, you can shave the weight of the motor by putting a gearbox in it. Now the F5B guys did this all the time. They got these stupid, wicked high-performance motors and geared them 5-to-1, 6-to-1, 7-to-1. So it would really let the motor wind up and scream, and they would turn these huge 15-inch propellers at 30,000 RPM. These things were frightening. I think the rules have tamed down the power systems a little bit. Now they're on watt limiters. You are limited to this many watts. And so it equalizes the play across the board, because if you had better batteries than the next guy, you were going to win. So this equalizes all that. So watts are watts. It doesn't matter if they come out of a crummy battery or a good battery. Once you got that watt, it's all done. Anyway, I plan to gear this. Now remember the Wonder Woman, I made a gear drive out of carbon fiber, and that's what I'm going to do here. So this is going to be the main structure of the entire gear drive, and I'm going to mount a plate to the front of it, and the motor will mount there, and the gears will be up in here, and they'll drive through here. I already have my nice little full ceramic bearings that fit in here, and then what I'll do is I'll cut little pieces of this, what is this, 9/32, this 9/32 tube, and stick it in here, or no, I think it's a metric tube. Stick it in here, put it in with green sauce to keep the bearings from moving around in here, so they can only go out. And then, of course, whatever device is attached to it here will prevent it from going out the other way. So that's my plan for the basics of the gear drive. How I'm going to mount it, I may just glue the thing down, Forget all the extra nonsense of nuts and bolts to remove it. I think I'm just going to glue it down. I'm going to glue the servo down. Everything's going to get glued down in the interest of saving weight. So today's project, I am completely done with all my drawings. I have sent out all my proposals. I have no other business I need to divert my attention to. So today, say I got this big old drawer here full of carbon fiber everything, right? So I'm going to take bits and pieces of carbon fiber, and I'm going to design a rudder for this thing. Oh, see? Here's my glue down servo. Oh, look, it's been waterproofed. Fascinating. So yeah, this thing will just get glued down. You're done. Now, what I have done before, you can wrap it with a piece of heat shrink, shrink the shrink, glue that down, and then if you ever want the servo, you cut the heat shrink and move it. Remember, these are small servos. They don't have a lot of torque, and there's not much load on this little tiny rudder, even though it's running at 172 miles an hour. No, even though it's running at 30, 35 miles an hour, you know, because 30 miles an hour and that little sucker is off the water. I mean, well, maybe 35, but definitely not 40. That's not a 40-mile-an-hour model. So I'm going to come up with a rudder, and I'm going to get out my trusty whiteboard and my trusty whiteboard writing device, and I'm going to start drawing and measuring, and maybe I can make a rudder bracket. The guy in Ukraine, EcoMaster, he's got a cool little rudder bracket, but I kind of hate to just order one little thing from him all the way over in Ukraine. On the other hand, it doesn't hurt to spend money in Ukraine, because Ukraine could probably use more money. You think? I don't know. Some of the stuff I see on YouTube, I don't know how the Russians are surviving. I mean, these Ukrainians are, they're a clever lot. Let me tell you something. They've done wonders with their drones. We should get some of their help on these boats. Anyway, I digress. So that's kind of my plan. I'm going to do up a gearbox. I'm going to plan on a rudder. Not quite sure how I'm going to make it, but, you know, I've got this kind of carbon. You know, I just grabbed some pieces that I thought would work. I mean, my strut, I've already got my strut figured out. This little guy gets epoxied into a slit shaped like that in the transom. Boom, and that holds my strut. And my strut is, oh, maybe that is my strut. Maybe that's not my rudder. Sorry, I lied to you folks. I lied. That's not my rudder. That's actually my strut. And I'm going to cut a slit in here on the mill, and this will go in here and get a hole for that. That's how that works. I'll use a similar shaped piece for the rudder, maybe a little thinner. Maybe I'll just grind this to a razor sharp edge here. Who knows? So there you go, boys and girls. My project for today. I'm working on little details because the big details are still in the mail. Yes, I still have stuff coming. And I've checked, and they're still in the construction phase. So we'll just have to wait and see. Wait and see. Until next time, boys and girls, jet out. Welcome back, boys and girls. I thought I'd share a little of the design and development that I've been doing since I closed out the first video. I kind of sketched up what I wanted and came up with some measurements. It was all looking good. And I said, well, I need to figure out the size of this hole because I'm going to make it out of this here piece of carbon fiber, and it's only about 1/8 of an inch thick. So, you know, maybe 3 millimeters, maybe it's 4 millimeters. Anyway, because this hole is going to be critical. So I was looking at a piece of 1.5 millimeter carbon fiber rod, and I've got a 1.5 millimeter reamer. And I was thinking, yeah, that'll work. So I I went through my parts thing because I was looking for a control arm. And I went through my parts thing and I started digging around. And son of a gun, if I didn't find this thing. Now this thing is for, what the hell is it for? I think it's for a nose wheel steering on retracts to where it can go like this and this. But if you look at it, this is the ideal shape for that thing. And I did a little sizing and I found this here piece of brass tube is just a snug fit, and that moves on it, but it's snug. It doesn't easily move, but it moves easily, if you get my drift. And I discovered that a little 1.5 millimeter bolt will go inside of it and hold this onto the tube and keeping it from slipping off. And lastly, this 4 millimeter piece of carbon fiber isn't quite tight enough, but if I throw this 0.5 millimeter piece on with it, then it is just a nice, good, snug fit, you know. Just snug enough. So here's the plan. I'm going to epoxy a piece of this to a piece of this and cut a little piece, a 1/4 of an inch wide and 1/2 an inch long, and glue it flatways into the transom with this hanging off and a rudder hanging off of that. And then the rudder bolt will also be the arm that moves this thing. So there you go. Digging through my supply of stuff and finding a part, a nose wheel, a steerable nose wheel piece, a steerable retract nose wheel piece, or some such thing. Works just fine for my rudder. There you go, boys and girls. Oh, and I was going to tell you when this thing will be finished. When will it be finished? There is a time when being a friend of Steve has its disadvantages. If I were just Joe Customer that called up and said, yeah, I want to order a motor, they'd put me on the schedule and boom, 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 boom. But since I'm a friend of Steve's, it's kind of like, okay, we'll get to his motor when we're winding a bunch of those. And sometimes it might be a long time before they're winding a bunch of those. Anyway, I digress. I should have motors coming maybe before Christmas. What do you think? Before Christmas? Until next time, boys and girls, jet out.